The autumn leaves blazed gold and crimson along the winding Vermont highway, a riot of color that Robert Mitchell barely noticed as he gripped the steering wheel of his Subaru. His knuckles had gone white, his jaw ached from clenching, and the phone in the cup holder would not stop buzzing with messages from his family. Almost a year. He had been lying to the people he loved most for almost a year. The thought made his stomach twist as he took the exit toward Mountain View Inn, where his cousin Rebecca was getting married for the third time. Optimistic woman Rebecca always believed in love, no matter how many times it disappointed her. Rob admired that quality even as he envied it. At 62, his own capacity for optimism had worn thin, eroded by 7 years of widowhood and the constant, suffocating concern of his well-meaning family. Another buzz, another message. He glanced at the screen. Mom, can't wait to meet Diane. Rebecca saved her a seat at our table. His sister Donna, I bought her a welcome gift. Hope she likes scarves. His daughter Jennifer, Dad, you need to tell them today. That last message was the only honest one in the chain. Jennifer knew the truth. She was the only one who knew. And she had been telling him for months to come clean, to end this ridiculous charade before it spiraled further out of control. But here he was, pulling into the parking lot of an elegant inn, surrounded by mountains dressed in their October finest, about to walk into a wedding reception where his entire extended family expected to meet his girlfriend. His fake girlfriend, his completely imaginary, entirely fictional, absolutely non-existent girlfriend named Diane Morrison. Rob turned off the engine and sat in the sudden silence, broken only by the ticking of the cooling motor and the distant sound of music drifting from the reception venue. Through the windshield, he could see other guests arriving, couples holding hands, families laughing together, normal people living honest lives, unburdened by the kind of elaborate deception that had somehow become his daily reality. It had started so innocently, or perhaps innocently was the wrong word. Desperately, maybe. Survival instinct. Thanksgiving dinner, 2023. His mother, Margaret, had invited yet another eligible woman to join them, a widow from her church book club who spent the entire meal talking about her dead husband's boat collection and asking Rob pointed questions about his retirement income. His sister Donna had brought pamphlets for a singles cruise designed for the over 50 crowd. His brother-in-law Frank had made jokes about Rob becoming a hermit. And all of them, every single person at that table, had looked at him with the same expression of concern, tinged with pity. Poor Rob, still not over Barbara, still living in the past, still alone. He had snapped somewhere between the pumpkin pie and the third-degree interrogation about whether he had considered online dating. The lie had just tumbled out of his mouth, smooth and easy, like it had been waiting there all along for the right moment of desperation. Actually, I've been seeing someone. Her name is Diane. She's a nurse. We met at a coffee shop near the hospital. It's still new, so I didn't want to say anything yet. The relief on their faces had been immediate and profound. His mother had actually cried happy tears. Donna had hugged him so hard his ribs ached. Frank had clapped him on the back and said, finally. Even Jennifer, who knew it was a lie because she had driven him to that very same Thanksgiving dinner, had looked at him with something like understanding. After 7 years of being the sad widower, the grief-stricken retired principal whose wife had died of cancer at 55, the object of everyone's pity and concern and matchmaking efforts, he had finally become normal again in their eyes. He had moved on. He was dating. He was going to be okay. Except none of it was true. And now, almost a year later, the lie had grown roots and branches. In less than 12 months, Diane had evolved from a casual coffee shop encounter into a serious relationship with a full backstory, complete with Christmas gifts from his mother and elaborate excuses he could barely keep straight. The speed at which the lie had consumed his life terrified him. Diane had evolved from a casual coffee shop encounter into a serious relationship. She had a full backstory, grew up in Burlington, worked as an emergency room nurse, volunteered at an animal shelter on weekends, loved hiking and photography, but was intensely private about her personal life, which was why she never attended family gatherings. Rob's mother had sent Diane Christmas gifts. His sister had friended her on social media, only to be told that Diane didn't really use Facebook. His granddaughter Lily had asked when she would get to meet Grandpa's girlfriend. The lie had become so elaborate, so detailed, so interwoven with his actual life, that Rob sometimes almost believed in Diane himself. Almost imagined he could feel her presence beside him, this phantom woman who existed only in the stories he told and the excuses he made. But today, the illusion was about to shatter because Rebecca, sweet, romantic, ever optimistic Rebecca, had insisted that of course Diane must come to the wedding, And of course, she must sit at the family table. And of course, the photographer would want to get some shots of Rob and his lovely girlfriend during the cocktail hour. His phone buzzed again. He picked it up, hands shaking slightly. Mom, where are you? Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Is Diane with you? Rob stared at the message, then at his reflection in the rearview mirror. 62 years old, salt and pepper hair that was more salt than pepper these days, lines etched deep around eyes that had seen too much loss. A good man, Barbara had always said, honest and kind and steady. What would Barbara think of him now, lying to their daughter, deceiving his mother, building an elaborate fiction to avoid the vulnerability of real human connection? The thought made shame burn hot in his chest. He typed back, parking, be right there. Then he stepped out of the car into the crisp October air and walked toward the venue, toward his family, toward the moment when everything he had carefully constructed would inevitably collapse. The Mountain View Inn lived up to its name. Perched on a hillside overlooking the valley, it offered sweeping views of the Vermont countryside dressed in its autumn glory. The wedding ceremony had been held outside under an arbor woven with late-season flowers, and now guests were filtering into the reception hall for cocktails while the wedding party took photos. Rob spotted his family immediately. They were impossible to miss, clustered around a table near the windows. 3 generations of Mitchells radiating warmth and excitement and curiosity. His mother, Margaret, 78 and still sharp as ever, wore a pale blue dress and kept scanning the crowd. His sister Donna, 60 and unapologetically loud, was already on her second glass of wine. Frank, Donna's husband, stood with his hands in his pockets, looking amused by the whole affair. And Jennifer, Rob's daughter, caught his eye and shook her head slightly. A warning, a plea. Tell them now, her expression said, before this gets worse. But before Rob could even consider coming clean, his mother spotted him. Robert, she waved, her whole face lighting up. Over here! He made his way through the crowd, his heart hammering. Maybe Diane had a last-minute emergency at the hospital. Maybe she got called into surgery. Maybe her car broke down. The excuses lined up in his mind, each one more pathetic than the last. Mom. He kissed her cheek, buying time. Happy to see Rebecca finally settling down. Margaret gripped his arm with surprising strength for a woman her age. Never mind Rebecca. Where's Diane? I've been waiting so long to meet this woman. Rob's mind went blank. She's parking, Jennifer cut in smoothly, coming to his rescue. You know how it is. Bad knees. She had to take a handicap spot pretty far away. Oh, the poor dear. Margaret's face creased with concern. Frank, go help her. Frank raised an eyebrow. I'll go look for a woman I've never met who may or may not exist. Of course she exists. Donna swatted her husband's arm. Don't tease your brother. He's sensitive about her. Rob wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. This was worse than he had imagined. The lies were compounding by the second, and he could see Jennifer's growing panic mirroring his own. I'll go find her, Rob said quickly. Just give me a minute. He turned away from his family and began threading through the cocktail hour crowd. No destination in mind, just desperate to escape the suffocating weight of their expectations. Near the bar, a string quartet played something elegant and forgettable. By the windows, groups of guests admired the view and made polite conversation. And at the dessert table, a woman in a navy dress stood alone, examining the petite four with what looked like professional interest. Rob stopped walking, stared, made a decision that would change everything. The woman was about 60, elegant in an understated way, with auburn hair swept up in a simple twist in an air of quiet self-possession. She stood slightly apart from the crowd, not unfriendly but not seeking company either. And most importantly, she was alone. In that moment, with his mother's questions ringing in his ears and his daughter's warning look burned into his memory and the weight of almost a year of lies pressing down on his shoulders, Rob Mitchell did something completely out of character. He walked up to a complete stranger and prepared to make the biggest mistake of his life. Diane! His voice came out too loud, too hearty, too obviously fake. There you are, sweetheart. The woman turned. Her eyes, he noticed in that split second, were hazel flecked with gold. Confused, wary, definitely not welcoming. Excuse me? I was worried about your knees, Rob continued, aware that his mother had started moving in their direction. Are you feeling better? My knees are fine. The woman's tone was cool, professional, utterly baffled. I think you have me confused with someone else. Rob saw his mother just 20 feet away now, Donna right behind her, both of them craning their necks to get a better look. Jennifer was trying to hold them back, but it was like trying to stop a tide with a paper dam. Please, Rob said quietly, desperately, just loud enough for only the woman to hear. I can explain. But right now, I need you to just trust me. For 1 minute, please. Are you insane? The woman stepped back, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. But Rob's mother had arrived, and there was no time for explanations or apologies or rational thought. There was only panic and desperation and the wild, reckless instinct of a man who had backed himself into a corner with nowhere left to run. He kissed her. The woman froze. So did Rob. So did everyone within visual range, which included his entire family, the wedding photographer who happened to be passing by, and at least a dozen other guests. For one impossible moment, time seemed to stop. Rob became acutely aware of several things at once. The woman's lips were soft and tasted faintly of champagne. Her perfume was subtle, something with vanilla and amber. She had gone rigid with shock but had not yet pushed him away. And a camera flash had just gone off, documenting this moment for eternity. Then reality crashed back in. The woman shoved him, hard, creating a foot of space between them. Her eyes blazed with fury and something else Rob could not quite identify. Betrayal, maybe. Violation, what the hell was that? Her voice was low but shaking with anger. Perfect. The photographer, oblivious to the tension, grinned at them. The bride is going to love these candid shots. You two are adorable. Before Rob could stammer an explanation, or the woman could slap him, or both could happen simultaneously, his mother descended like a force of nature. Diane! Margaret pulled the stunned woman into a hug. Finally, I finally get to meet the woman who captured my son's heart. Over Margaret's shoulder, the woman's eyes locked with Rob's. They promised murder. Slow, painful murder. She started to say. You're even more beautiful than Robert described. Donna joined the hug, creating a Mitchell family sandwich with the bewildered stranger trapped in the middle. And that dress? Navy is definitely your color. Thank you? The woman's voice had taken on a strangled quality. Diane Morrison, right? Frank extended his hand once the women released her. Frank Reynolds, Rob's brother-in-law. Pleasure to finally meet you. The woman looked at Frank's outstretched hand, at Rob's pleading expression, at Margaret's beaming face, at Jennifer, who was making throat-cutting motions behind their mother's back. She took Frank's hand and shook it firmly. Her face had gone carefully blank, but Rob could see the calculations happening behind your eyes, the weighing of options, the recognition that making a scene would embarrass not just Rob, but this entire family who clearly loved him. Nice to meet you, she said evenly. All of you. Rob felt a rush of gratitude so intense it nearly buckled his knees. She was going along with it. This stranger he had just assaulted with an unwanted kiss was actually playing along. But why? How are your knees, dear? Margaret took the woman's arm, steering her toward their table. Robert said you've been having trouble. My knees are... The woman glanced at Rob again, her expression unreadable. Better, thank you. The walk from the parking lot helped. You should have let Frank help you. I'm fine, really. Independent to a fault, according to some people. She directed that last comment at Rob with the faintest edge of sarcasm that everyone else missed. Rob nearly laughed with relief and terror combined. This woman was quick, and clearly accustomed to thinking on her feet. They reached the Mitchell family table where Rob's granddaughter Lily was scrolling through her phone and his grandson Jacob was sneaking extra dinner rolls. Jennifer stood guard like a protective sentinel, ready to intercede at any moment. Kids, Donna announced dramatically. This is your grandpa's girlfriend, Diane. Lily looked up, took one glance at the woman's face, and her eyes narrowed with teenage perception. Something's wrong, her expression said. This doesn't add up. But before she could voice any suspicions, the wedding planner appeared with a clipboard and a harried expression. Ms. Wellington, your meeting with Mr. Hamilton is in 5 minutes. He's waiting in the library. The woman, Wellington, not Morrison, stiffened. I'll be right there. Wellington? Margaret's smile faltered slightly. I thought your last name was Morrison? Rob's brain scrambled. She uses her maiden name professionally for nursing at the hospital. The woman, Wellington, shot him a look that could have melted steel, but she smiled at Margaret. Exactly. Some of us prefer to keep our professional and personal lives separate. Of course, dear, Margaret patted her hand, though I do hope you'll let us into your personal life now. We've waited so long. The wedding planner cleared her throat. Mrs. Wellington, Mr. Hamilton is very busy. He has another appointment after yours. I understand. Wellington carefully extracted herself from the group. If you'll excuse me for a few minutes. Wait, Margaret called. Before you go, one quick photo for the family album? And just like that, Rob found himself standing next to this furious stranger. His mother's phone pointed at them, being told to smile and look natural. He put his arm around Wellington's waist, feeling her stiffen. She leaned into him slightly, but her hand on his chest felt more like a threat than an embrace. Beautiful, Margaret beamed. Oh, Robert, she's perfect. After the photo, Wellington made her escape. But as she passed Rob, she leaned in close enough that only he could hear. You have exactly 5 minutes to explain yourself. Library. Now. Then she was gone, leaving Rob standing with his family, all of whom looked at him with expressions ranging from delight to deep suspicion. Jennifer pulled him aside the moment she could. Dad, what did you just do? I have no idea, Rob admitted, but I think I'm about to find out how badly I messed up. The library was a small room off the main reception hall, lined with books nobody read, and furnished with leather chairs that probably cost more than Rob's first car. When he slipped inside, he found Wellington standing by the window, arms crossed, her earlier composure cracked to reveal blazing fury. Start talking, she said, and it better be spectacular. Rob closed the door behind him, buying himself 3 seconds to figure out how to explain the inexplicable. I'm sorry, that's the first thing. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. You kissed me in front of dozens of people without consent. I know, there's no excuse. It was wrong and invasive, and He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture he had not made since his 30s. I panicked. Panicked. She repeated the word like it was a foreign concept. So your response to panic is to assault random women at weddings? It wasn't assault. Then he heard how that sounded. I mean, it was, technically, but I wasn't trying to. His words tangled into knots. This was going worse than he could have imagined. Wellington took a step toward him, and Rob saw she was shaking slightly, not just with anger, but with something else. Adrenaline, maybe, or shock. I came to this wedding to meet with a potential investor for my business, she said, each word precisely enunciated. Brian Hamilton, your cousin's college friend, he's considering investing $80,000 in my bookshop, which is 1 month away from foreclosure. This meeting is the most important business appointment of my life. I didn't know, Rob said quietly. No, you didn't, because you didn't ask. You just saw a woman standing alone and decided she would be perfect for whatever insane scheme you were concocting. She turned away, pressing her fingers to her temples. And now Brian thinks I'm dating you, which means either I make a scene and lose his trust, or I go along with this bizarre charade and, what, pretend to be your girlfriend? Her name's Diane. The words came out before Rob could stop them. My fake girlfriend is named Diane Morrison. Wellington turned slowly. Fake girlfriend. I invented her almost a year ago to get my family to stop trying to set me up. After my wife died, Rob felt the shame burning through him again. They meant well, but the blind dates and the pity and the constant concern, I just wanted them to stop looking at me like I was broken. Something in Wellington's expression shifted slightly. Still angry, but now there was a flicker of understanding, of recognition. So you created an imaginary woman. It was supposed to be temporary, just long enough for them to move on to worrying about someone else. But then it became complicated. And now they think I've been seriously dating her for over a year, and my mother has been planning to meet her, and my cousin insisted she come to the wedding, and Rob's voice cracked slightly. I didn't know what else to do. They stood in silence for a moment, two strangers bound together by one spectacularly bad decision and its rapidly multiplying consequences. What's your real name? Rob asked finally. Catherine Wellington, Kate. She studied his face as if trying to determine whether he was dangerous or just dangerously stupid. I own Wellington Books and Brew in town. My husband died 5 years ago, left me the bookshop. I'm losing it because I can't compete with online retailers. Brian Hamilton is my last chance. I'm Robert Mitchell. Rob, retired high school principal. My wife Barbara died 7 years ago from cancer. I have 1 daughter, 2 grandkids, and apparently a completely fictional girlfriend that half of Vermont thinks is real. He met her eyes. I'm not dangerous, just desperate and idiotic. Kate's lips twitched slightly. That much was obvious from the kiss. Rob felt himself flush. I really am sorry about that. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? The question hung between them, sharp and uncomfortable. Rob thought about it seriously, which seemed to surprise her. Both, he admitted. I'm sorry I violated your boundaries and put you in this impossible position. And I'm sorry my family now thinks you're someone you're not. But mostly I'm sorry I've become the kind of man who would do something like this in the first place. Barbara would be ashamed of me. That admission seemed to penetrate Kate's anger more than anything else he had said. Her shoulders lowered slightly, and some of the fury drained from her eyes. A knock at the door interrupted them. "Mr. Hamilton will see you now, Miss Wellington," the wedding planner called. Kate looked at Rob, then at the door, then back at Rob. "I have a proposition. I'll do anything to make this right," Rob said immediately. "You help me secure this investment. Use your family connections, your good reputation, whatever it takes to make Brian Hamilton trust me. In exchange, I'll pretend to be your girlfriend. Just for today, just through the reception. Then you confess to your family and we both walk away." Rob felt hope flicker, despite the mess he had created. "Deal. But there are conditions." Kate moved closer, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "No more kissing without permission. No more lies beyond what's absolutely necessary. And on Monday, you tell them the truth, all of it. Agreed. And if I lose this investment because of your stunt, you personally will help me save my bookshop. Whatever it takes." Rob extended his hand. "You have my word." Kate looked at his hand for a long moment before shaking it. Her grip was firm, her hand surprisingly warm in his. For a second, Rob felt that same jolt he had experienced during the kiss. Recognition, connection. Something that felt dangerous and right all at once. Then she released his hand and headed for the door. "Let's go meet Brian and try to look like a couple who actually knows each other." "What's your favorite book?" Rob asked quickly. She paused, hand on the doorknob. "What? If we're supposed to be dating, I should know basic things about you." Kate considered this. "The Great Gatsby. You, To Kill a Mockingbird. I taught it for 30 years. Her expression softened fractionally. "At least we have that in common." Then she was gone, leaving Rob alone in the library with the weight of what he had done and the fragile hope that maybe, somehow, this disaster could be contained. He gave her 3 minutes before following. When he emerged back into the reception hall, he saw Kate sitting across from Brian Hamilton at a quiet table in the corner, papers spread between them, her professional mask firmly in place. Brian, a fit man in his late 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit, was nodding as she spoke, clearly engaged. Rob's family, meanwhile, had converged near the bar, all of them watching him with varying degrees of suspicion and excitement. Jennifer intercepted him first. "Dad, what happened in there?" "I might have made things worse," Rob admitted. "How is that possible?" He glanced at Kate and Brian, then at his mother's expectant face, then at Frank's knowing smirk. "I have absolutely no idea, but I'm about to find out." The cocktail hour stretched on, a surreal exercise in maintaining a fiction that Rob had never intended to enact in person. He stood with his family, fielding questions about Diane and Catherine, and trying to keep his story straight while watching Kate's meeting with Brian from across the room. She was impressive, he had to admit. Even from this distance, even knowing nothing about her beyond the bare facts she had shared, he could see the passion and professionalism in the way she gestured toward her papers, the earnest intensity in her expression. This woman was fighting for something she loved, something that mattered deeply. And he had nearly destroyed it with one panicked, selfish decision. The meeting lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, Brian shook Kate's hand warmly, said something that made her smile, and then stood. He spotted Rob and headed over with an easy confidence. "Rob, good to see you. It's been, what, 2 years, at least?" Rob shook his hand, trying to remember where they had met. "Rebecca's last wedding, maybe? Your girlfriend Catherine just gave me the most compelling pitch I've heard in months." Brian clapped Rob on the shoulder. "Any woman you're dating must have good character. And her bookshop concept is exactly the kind of community-focused business I want to support." "She's remarkable," Rob said, surprised to find he meant it. "I'll stop by the shop Monday to finalize details." Brian leaned in conspiratorially. "But between us, I think I'm going to do it. She's got vision and heart. That's rare." After Brian walked away, Kate materialized at Rob's elbow. "We need to talk," she murmured. But before they could escape, Rebecca, the bride herself, appeared in a cloud of white tulle and champagne-fueled happiness. "Cousin Rob!" She threw her arms around him. "I'm so glad you could make it, and this must be the famous Diane." She turned to Kate with a brilliant smile, and Rob watched in fascination as Kate transformed. The guarded bookshop owner vanished, replaced by a warm, gracious woman who embraced Rebecca like an old friend. "Congratulations," Kate said. "You look absolutely radiant." "Thank you. And thank you for coming. I know you're very private, but it means the world to have you here." Rebecca squeezed Kate's hands. "Rob has been so much happier since he met you. We can all see it." "That's kind of you to say," Kate replied, and Rob heard something genuine beneath the performance. Something sad and wistful and lonely. Before Rebecca could launch into more questions, the wedding planner announced that dinner was being served and would everyone please find their seats. The crowd began migrating toward the dining room, a space transformed with flowers and candles, and the kind of elegant simplicity that spoke of significant expense. Rob and Kate found themselves swept along with his family to their assigned table. Margaret immediately positioned Kate in the seat beside her own, with Rob on Kate's other side. Donna and Frank sat across from them, and Jennifer and the kids rounded out the party. So Diane, Donna leaned forward eagerly, tell us everything. How did you really meet Rob? Kate glanced at Rob, one eyebrow raised fractionally. This is your story, her expression said. You tell it. Coffee shop, Rob began, then faltered. Near the hospital where Diane works. Which hospital? Frank asked innocently. His eyes were sharp. Too sharp. Fletcher Allen, Kate interjected smoothly. I transferred there about 2 years ago. Quieter than Burlington Medical. And you just happened to be at the same coffee shop? Donna pressed. I was reading. Kate picked up the story with the ease of someone accustomed to thinking quickly. Something enormous and boring about wine regions. Rob made a joke about whether I was studying for a sommelier exam or a geography test. Rob remembered that he needed to participate in this fiction. It was a terrible joke, he admitted. She looked at me like I was the most embarrassing person alive. But you bought me a replacement coffee after you spilled mine. Kate's smile was almost convincing. That earned you a second chance. How romantic! Margaret clasped her hands together. Love blooming over spilled coffee. More like tolerating each other over mediocre lattes, Kate corrected gently. And despite everything, Rob found himself smiling. There was something refreshing about her refusal to perform the expected romance. Something honest. The dinner progressed, course after careful course, while Rob and Kate wove their improvised backstory. They discovered in the process of lying small truths about each other. She really did love coffee, strong and black. He really had been a high school principal, specializing in English literature. She had lost her husband 5 years ago to a sudden heart attack. He had watched his wife decline over 2 brutal years of cancer, and slowly, imperceptibly, the performance began to feel less like a lie and more like a possibility, like a rough draft of something that could, in some alternate universe, be real. That feeling terrified Rob more than any of the lies. After dinner, as the DJ announced the first dance and Rebecca and her new husband took the floor, Kate leaned close to Rob. Her breath was warm against his ear. Your Uncle Frank knows something's wrong. He keeps watching me. Rob glanced at Frank, who was indeed studying Kate with the focused attention of a man who had spent 40 years as a detective before retiring. He's always suspicious, Rob whispered back, occupational hazard. Well, his occupation is about to hazard our entire scheme if we're not careful. The first dance ended, and the DJ invited all couples to join the bride and groom on the floor. Rob stood automatically, then realized what he was doing. He extended his hand to Kate. May I? She looked at his hand, then at his face, searching for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her, because she placed her hand in his and stood. One dance, she said quietly. Then I'm leaving and you're confessing to your family. They moved to the floor along with dozens of other couples as the opening notes of Unforgettable by Nat King Cole filled the room. Rob placed his hand on Kate's waist, hyper-aware of the warmth of her through the fabric of her dress. She rested her hand on his shoulder, and they began to move. For the first minute, they danced in silence, surrounded by strangers and family and the weight of everything unsaid between them. Then Kate spoke, so quietly that Rob almost missed it. This was supposed to be simple. Go to a wedding, meet an investor, go home. I'm sorry I complicated it. You're sorry about a lot of things, it seems. I am, Rob met her eyes. But I'm also grateful. You could have made a scene. Embarrassed me in front of everyone. You would have been justified. Why didn't I? Kate seemed to be asking herself as much as him. I don't know. Maybe because I saw the panic in your eyes. Or because your mother looked so happy. Or because I'm just as desperate as you are. The bookshop? My husband's dream. She looked away, blinking rapidly. He spent 20 years building it, curating every shelf, creating community. And I'm watching it die because I don't know how to save it. Brian's going to invest. I could hear it in his voice. Because he thinks I'm dating you. Because he trusts the Mitchell family name. She laughed bitterly. Even my success is built on lies now. Rob pulled her slightly closer, surprising them both. Then we make it true. The investment, I mean. I'll help you however I can. Not as fake boyfriend, but as someone who believes in what you're trying to save. Kate looked up at him, and Rob saw something shift behind her eyes. Walls lowering, defenses cracking. Why would you do that? Because I spent 7 years hiding from life. And you spent 5. Maybe it's time we both stopped. The song swelled around them, and for a moment, Rob forgot they were performing. Forgot his family was watching. Forgot the lays and the panic and the desperation. There was only this woman in his arms, moving with him through day and music and possibility. When the song ended, they stood still while other couples drifted apart. The DJ transitioned into something upbeat, breaking the spell. Rob, Kate said, we need to talk. But before they could move, Margaret appeared with a camera, Donna right behind her, both of them beaming like they had just witnessed something sacred. That was beautiful. You two look so natural together. Very comfortable, Frank added, appearing beside his wife. Almost like you've been doing this for years. There was something pointed in his tone that made Rob's stomach tighten. Frank knew, or at least strongly suspected, and he was giving them a warning. Diane, dear. Margaret took Kate's hand. I can't tell you how happy I am that Robert found you. After Barbara, well, we worried he might never open his heart again. Kate's composure finally cracked, just slightly. Mrs. Mitchell, call me Margaret. Your family now. Those 3 words, spoken with such warmth and certainty, landed like physical blows. Kate went pale. Rob felt sick, and Frank's eyes narrowed further. Mom, Rob started, ready to finally come clean, but Kate squeezed his hand. Hard, a warning and a plea combined. Thank you, Margaret. That means more than you know. After they finally escaped his family's orbit, Rob and Kate found themselves on the terrace outside the reception hall. The evening had turned cool, and Kate wrapped her arms around herself, shivering slightly in her dress. Rob shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She looked surprised but did not refuse it. You were going to tell them, she said. I should have told them months ago, but you didn't. Why? Rob leaned against the terrace railing, looking out at the darkening mountains. Because it was easier to lie, because I didn't want to face their disappointment, because I didn't want to be the sad widower again. He laughed without humor. Turns out I'm just a coward with good excuses. You're not a coward. Kate moved to stand beside him. Cowards don't apologize. They don't try to make things right. I kissed you without permission and dragged you into an elaborate fraud. That's not exactly heroic. No, but you're trying to fix it. That counts for something. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars begin to emerge in the Vermont sky. Below them, music and laughter drifted from the reception, a reminder of the performance waiting for them inside. Brian's meeting went well, Kate said eventually. Better than well. He wants to finalize everything on Monday. That's wonderful. It is, because of you. Because your family vouched for me without even knowing me. She turned to look at him. What happens when they find out? Rob had been wondering the same thing. They'll be hurt, angry, disappointed. And your relationship with them? Damaged, maybe irreparably. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then I should tell them now, tonight, that I'm not Diane, that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. No, Rob shook his head firmly. I got you into this. I'll get you out. After you meet with Brian on Monday and secure the investment, after your bookshop is safe, then I'll tell them everything. And what do we do until Monday? Rob thought about his mother's joy, about Donna's excitement, about Frank's suspicion, about the look in Kate's eyes when they had danced, like she was remembering what it felt like to not be alone. We keep going, he said, but properly this time. We get to know each other, learn real things. Build enough trust that when I confess, you won't be part of the lie anymore. Just someone who got caught up in my mess and handled it with far more grace than I deserved. Kate studied his face in the dim light from the reception hall. You want to keep pretending for 48 hours to protect your investment, to give me time to figure out how to tell them without destroying everything. His voice dropped. And maybe because I'm not ready for this to end yet. This, whatever this is. He gestured between them. This unexpected connection with someone who understands what it's like to lose a partner and try to move forward. This feeling of not being completely alone for the first time in years. Kate's expression softened. That's the most honest thing you've said all night. Then here's one more honest thing. Rob took a breath, knowing he was about to make everything more complicated. That kiss, the one I had no right to take, it was wrong, but it was also something. Something? Real. Despite everything else being fake, that moment felt real. Kate was quiet for so long that Rob thought he had finally, completely ruined everything. Then she spoke, so quietly he almost missed it over the music from inside. I know, that's what scares me. Before Rob could respond, Jennifer appeared in the doorway. Dad, they're cutting the cake. Mom wants family photos. Rob and Kate exchanged a look. Then, wordlessly, they walked back inside together, back into the performance, back into the lie that was beginning to feel dangerously like truth. As they posed for photos, Rob with his arm around Kate and his family beaming around them, Frank caught his eye across the room. The older man's expression was knowing, warning, but also something else. Curious, like he was watching a story unfold and wanted to see how it ended. Rob wondered the same thing. How did this end? With confession and shame and loss? Or with something unexpected? Something that began as fiction but evolved into reality? He looked at Kate, who was smiling at something Donna said, looking more relaxed than she had all evening. Her hand rested on his arm, and the weight of it felt right. Natural, like it belonged there. And Rob Mitchell, who had spent almost a year lying to everyone including himself, finally admitted a truth he had been avoiding all evening. He did not want to let her go. Not after one dance, not after one night, not when something genuine was beginning to bloom in the space between their carefully constructed lies. The question was whether Kate felt the same way, and whether either of them was brave enough to find out. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October clarity that made Vermont famous. Rob stood outside Wellington Books and Brew, holding 2 paper cups of coffee and wondering if he had completely lost his mind. 48 hours. That was the agreement. Help Kate secure Brian Hamilton's investment, maintain the charade through one family dinner, then confess everything and walk away. Simple, clean, contained. Except nothing about the situation was simple anymore. Through the storefront window, Rob could see Kate moving between shelves, her auburn hair caught back in a practical ponytail, reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined a stack of books. The shop itself was charming in the way of beloved local businesses everywhere. Floor-to-ceiling shelves packed with volumes both new and worn, a cafe counter in the corner with mismatched chairs, local art on the walls, and the unmistakable smell of old paper and fresh coffee. It was also, Rob noted with concern, showing its age. The ceiling had water stains in one corner. The cafe equipment looked like it belonged in a museum. Paint peeled near the baseboards. This was a place that had been loved but not maintained, cherished but slowly dying. He pushed open the door. A bell chimed overhead, the kind of old-fashioned sound that probably delighted customers and annoyed Kate every time it rang. She looked up from her books, and something complicated flickered across her face when she saw him. Relief, maybe, or regret, possibly both. You brought coffee, she said. That's either very thoughtful or strategic guilt management. Can it be both? Rob handed her one of the cups. Black, no sugar. I remembered from dinner. Kate took the coffee, their fingers brushing briefly. You pay attention. 30 years of teaching teenagers trained me to notice details. Rob looked around the shop, really seeing it now. This place is incredible. This place is falling apart. Kate's voice was matter-of-fact, but he heard the pain underneath. The roof leaks. The plumbing is original to the 1950s. Half my electrical outlets don't work. But it's Richard's dream, so I keep putting Band-Aids on a patient that probably needs surgery. Brian's investment will change that, if Brian's investment happens. Kate set down her coffee and crossed her arms, which depends entirely on whether he believes I'm a trustworthy person with solid character, which apparently he's determining based on my fake relationship with you. Rob winced. When you put it that way, it sounds worse. It is worse, Rob. I'm building my financial future on a lie. She turned away, pretending to straighten books that were already perfectly aligned. I didn't sleep last night, kept thinking about how this could all blow up, how your family will find out, how Brian might pull his offer if he realizes we barely know each other. Then we should know each other. Rob pulled out his phone. Brian's meeting is at 2. That gives us 6 hours. Let's use them. For what? Getting our story straight, learning real things about each other, making this believable enough that when I eventually confess, you're protected. Rob met her eyes. I got you into this mess. I'm going to make sure you get out of it safely. Something in Kate's expression softened. You really mean that? I do. Rob glanced at his phone again. Also, fair warning, my mother just texted me. She wants us to come to Sunday dinner. Kate closed her eyes. Of course she does. I can make an excuse. No. Kate opened her eyes with visible effort. We agreed 48 hours. If Sunday dinner is part of that, then we do it. She pulled out a notepad from behind the counter. But we're doing this properly. Sit. We're making a list. For the next 3 hours, Rob and Kate sat in the back corner of the bookshop, constructing the architecture of a fictional relationship while accidentally building the foundation of a real one. Favorite books, Kate wrote at the top of her list. You said To Kill a Mockingbird, for teaching, for personal pleasure, probably anything by John le Carré. Rob watched her write. What about you, Beyond Gatsby? Poetry, Mary Oliver. Also trashy mystery novels, I'm too embarrassed to shelve in my own shop. Rob laughed, surprised. You're a poetry and pulp fiction person? Contains multitudes. Kate smiled, and Rob realized it was the first genuine smile he had seen from her. She should smile more. It transformed her face, made her look younger, less burdened. They moved through the mundane details that couples should know. His daughter, Jennifer, was a middle school teacher, divorced, raising 2 kids alone with the kind of fierce competence that made Rob proud and guilty in equal measure. Kate's son, Daniel, was a lawyer in Boston, married to a woman named Amanda, with one daughter named Ava, who Kate clearly adored from the way her voice changed when she spoke about her. My wife Barbara died at 55, Rob said when they reached the difficult parts. Ovarian cancer. 2 years from diagnosis to the end. Watching her fade was the hardest thing I've ever done. Kate's hand moved across the table, not quite touching his, but close enough to offer comfort. Richard was 53, heart attack at his desk while doing the bookshop's taxes, gone before the ambulance arrived. I didn't get to say goodbye. Is that worse? Rob asked quietly. Or better? I got to say goodbye 100 times, and none of them were enough. I don't know. Kate's voice was thick. Some days I think the sudden loss was a mercy. Other days I'd give anything for one more conversation. One more chance to say all the things I assumed we'd have time for. They sat in silence. 2 people joined by loss and lies and the strange intimacy of shared grief. The bell above the door chimed. Both of them straightened, putting professional distance between them as an elderly woman entered and began browsing the mystery section. Mrs. Henderson, Kate greeted her warmly. The new Louise Penny just came in. Oh, wonderful. The woman's face lit up. You always remember what I like. After Mrs. Henderson left with her book and enthusiastic praise for Kate's service, Rob understood something new. This bookshop wasn't just Richard's dream. It was Kate's community, her purpose. The thing that gave her days structure and meaning after loss tried to hollow her out. He wanted to help her save it. Not because of guilt or obligation or their strange agreement, but because she deserved to keep this piece of light in her life. At precisely 2 o'clock, Brian Hamilton arrived at Wellington Books with the confidence of a man accustomed to being important. Rob had positioned himself browsing the history section, close enough to observe, but not intrude. Catherine, Brian shook Kate's hand warmly. I've been thinking about your proposal all weekend. Rob watched Kate transform into her professional self, poised, articulate, passionate without being desperate. She walked Brian through her vision for the bookshop, the renovations needed, the expanded cafe menu, the community events that would drive traffic, author readings, book clubs, partnerships with local schools. Your numbers are solid, Brian said, examining the spreadsheet she had prepared. And the community clearly loves this place. I saw that yesterday at the wedding. People kept mentioning your shop. It's been here for 20 years. Kate's voice was steady, but Rob saw her hands tremble slightly. It's part of Maplewood's identity. Here's my concern. Brian set down the papers. Bookshops are risky investments. Most fail within 5 years. What makes you different? Kate took a breath. Because this isn't just about selling books. It's about creating space for connection. People come here after losing a spouse and find a community of others who understand. Parents bring kids who struggle to read and find books that finally speak to them. Teenagers hide in the corner doing homework because home is too chaotic. She met Brian's eyes. You can't measure that kind of value in quarterly returns. No, Brian agreed, but I can measure it in community impact. And your boyfriend's family vouching for you tells me you're someone who builds genuine relationships. That matters. Rob felt the knife of guilt twist deeper. Brian's faith in Kate was built on a foundation of lies. And when those lies came out, would his investment survive? After Brian left with promises to have contracts ready by Wednesday, Kate sagged against the counter like a marionette with cut strings. He's gonna do it, she whispered. $80,000. Enough to fix the roof and the plumbing and actually hire help so I'm not running this place alone. That's incredible, Kate. She looked at him with eyes that were simultaneously joyful and terrified. And it's all because of you. Because your family trusted me. Because Brian thinks I'm dating an honest, upstanding former principal. She laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. The irony is choking me. Rob moved around the counter, careful not to crowd her. We'll figure this out. After the investment is secure, after Sunday dinner, I'll tell them everything. Take all the blame. You'll just be someone who got caught up in my mess. And if Brian pulls his investment when he learns the truth, he won't. Rob surprised himself with his certainty. Because everything you told him today was true. The shop's value, the community need, your vision. That's real. Our relationship is the only fiction. Is it? Kate asked quietly. Before Rob could answer, his phone buzzed. A text from his granddaughter, Lily. Grandpa, I need to talk to you. It's about Diane. Important. Rob's stomach dropped. Lily was 14, perceptive, and had grown up in the age of Google. Whatever she wanted to discuss, it couldn't be good. The next day, Rob met Lily at the bookshop after school. She arrived in a blur of teenage energy and suspicion, her backpack covered in pins supporting various social causes, her phone already in her hand. Hey, kiddo, Rob hugged her. What's so important? Lily pulled back and looked around. Is she here? Diane? Her name's actually Catherine. Rob glanced toward the storage room where Kate was inventorying stock. And yes, I know her name's Catherine. Lily held up her phone. Catherine Wellington, owner of Wellington Books and Brew, widowed 5 years ago, survived by son Daniel. There's no mention anywhere of her being a nurse or using the name Diane Morrison. Rob felt the trap springing shut around him. The question was whether to keep lying or trust his granddaughter with the truth. You want to explain? Lily's voice was sharp but not unkind. Or should I ask Grandma Margaret why you're dating someone under a fake name? Let's sit. Rob led her to a quiet corner away from the few afternoon customers. When they were settled, he told her everything. The fake girlfriend invention, the wedding panic, the kiss, the deal with Kate, all of it. Lily listened without interrupting, her teenage face cycling through shock, amusement, and something that looked like understanding. So you created an imaginary girlfriend to avoid Grandma's matchmaking, she summarized. Then you kissed a random woman at a wedding and now you're fake dating her for real? When you put it that way, it sounds insane. It is insane, Grandpa. Lily leaned back, studying him. But it's also kind of sad. Sad? You've been so lonely since Grandma Barbara died. We all see it. But instead of actually trying to date, you invented someone. She glanced toward the storage room. And now you're pretending to date someone you actually like. Because you do like her, right? Rob opened his mouth to deny it, then stopped. Did he like Kate? Beyond the guilt and the complications and the disaster of how they met? Yes, he admitted. I like her very much. Does she like you? I have no idea. We've spent most of our time coordinating lies and avoiding disaster. Lily shook her head with the exasperation unique to teenagers dealing with incompetent adults. You're both idiots. You know that, right? I'm aware. Here's what's going to happen. Lily leaned forward, suddenly serious. I won't tell anyone, but you need to come clean soon, before Grandma gets more attached, before Uncle Frank figures it out, because he's definitely suspicious, and before you mess this up with Catherine, because she seems really nice and you deserve to be happy. When did you get so wise? I'm 14. I know everything. Lily stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. Also, Grandma Barbara told me before she died that you'd probably be scared to love again. She made me promise to push you if you ever found someone. So consider yourself pushed. After Lily left, Kate emerged from the storage room. She heard? Everything, Rob confirmed, but she's on our side. We have a side? Kate sat down in the chair Lily had vacated. This was supposed to be simple, Rob. Help me get the investment, you confess, we walk away. But now your granddaughter knows, and your family is planning our future, and I'm starting to forget which parts are real. Rob reached across the table, taking Kate's hand before he could second-guess the impulse. This is real, this connection, this conversation, the way I feel when I'm with you, and how do you feel? Kate's voice was barely audible, like I'm waking up after 7 years of sleepwalking. Sunday dinner at Margaret Mitchell's house was a production. The dining table could barely contain the spread. Pot roast with root vegetables, fresh bread, 3 kinds of salad, and enough side dishes to feed a small army. The Mitchell family descended on the meal with the enthusiasm of people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, even as they traded barbs and teased and laughed. Kate sat beside Rob, fielding questions from his mother and sister while trying not to stare at the photographs lining the walls. Barbara was everywhere in this house, smiling from frames, younger, healthier, alive. The life Rob had lived before loss reshaped him. Diane, dear, Margaret passed Kate the potatoes. Robert tells me you enjoy reading. What sort of books? All kinds, Kate replied honestly, though I have a weakness for mysteries. Just like Barbara, Margaret's face lit up. She loved a good mystery, used to read them in the garden for hours. The garden. Donna picked up the thread. Mom, you should show Diane the garden. Barbara spent years on it. After dinner, Margaret led Kate and Rob through French doors to a backyard that had once been beautiful. The bones of the garden remained, established flower beds, a stone pathway, an arbor that probably burst with roses in summer. But everything was overgrown, neglected, slowly returning to wildness. Barbara's masterpiece, Margaret said softly. Robert hasn't touched it since she died. Kate glanced at Rob and saw the pain carved into his face. She understood. Sometimes the things we love hurt too much to tend. It could be beautiful again, Kate said carefully. The structure is still solid. Margaret took Kate's hand. Maybe you could help him bring it back to life. The way you've brought him back to life, the words landed like a physical blow. Kate felt the weight of Margaret's hope, her genuine affection, her belief that Kate was the answer to her son's loneliness. And all of it built on lies. Mrs. Mitchell, Kate started. Please, call me Margaret. You're family now. Those 3 words again. Family. Belonging. The thing Kate had been missing since Richard died and Daniel moved to Boston and the bookshop became her only community. She wanted to deserve them. After helping with dishes, Kate found Rob on the back porch, staring at the garden in the twilight. Your mother wants me to help restore Barbara's garden, she said quietly. I heard. Rob's voice was rough. You don't have to. I want to. Kate moved to stand beside him. Not because I'm pretending to be your girlfriend, because gardens shouldn't die when the people who love them do. Rob turned to look at her, and Kate saw something break open in his expression. Thank you. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. Inside, through the window, they could see Rob's family moving around the kitchen. Margaret putting away leftovers. Donna refilling wine glasses. Jennifer herding her kids toward their coats. Frank watching everything with his detective's eyes. Frank knows, Kate said, or strongly suspects. I know. What are you going to do? Tell them, soon. Before it gets worse, Rob's hand found hers in the darkness. But not yet. Why not? Because I'm not ready to lose this. This, whatever this is becoming. The following Saturday, Wellington Books held its Save Our Stories fundraiser. Kate had spent the week organizing book sales, author readings, live music from local high school students, a bake sale featuring contributions from half the town. The goal was to demonstrate community support for Brian Hamilton's investment. The reality was pure chaos. Rob had thrown himself into helping. He had called everyone he knew, posted on social media despite barely understanding how it worked, convinced his former teaching colleagues to attend. And on the day of the event, he showed up at dawn to help Kate set up. The bookshop was transformed. Books overflowed onto sidewalk tables. Folding chairs filled every available space for the author panel. The cafe counter groaned under donated baked goods. And people came, dozens at first, then hundreds. Elderly couples who had been coming to the shop for years. Young families with children. Teenagers who did homework at the corner tables. Former students of Rob's who remembered how he had fostered their love of reading. Brian Hamilton arrived mid-afternoon and stood near the entrance, watching the controlled chaos with an expression Rob couldn't quite read. Kate, wearing a Wellington Books t-shirt and looking happier than Rob had ever seen her, was in her element. She greeted customers by name, recommended books with uncanny accuracy, and radiated the kind of authentic passion that no amount of marketing could fake. At 4 o'clock, the mayor took the microphone for the community testimonial portion. One by one, townspeople stood to share what the bookshop meant to them. An elderly woman spoke about finding her grief support book club here after losing her husband. A young mother described how Kate had helped her dyslexic son discover graphic novels that made him love reading. A teacher talked about Catherine Wellington's donations to classroom libraries. And through it all, the Mitchell family stood together near the history section, Margaret beaming with pride, Donna crying happy tears, Jennifer watching her father with something that looked like hope, and Frank still suspicious but visibly moved by the community response. Rob found himself standing beside Kate as the testimonials continued. You did this, he said quietly. All of this. You built something that matters. We did this, Kate corrected. Your family showed up. Your former students are here. This is as much your community as mine now. Before Rob could process what that meant, Brian Hamilton approached them. Catherine. Robert. His expression was unreadable. Could we speak privately? They followed him to the storage room, Rob's heart hammering. This was it. Brian had figured out the lie. The investment was dead. Everything was about to collapse. Brian closed the door and turned to face them. I've made my decision. Kate gripped Rob's hand so tightly he felt bones shift. 80,000 is too little, Brian said. I'm doubling my investment. $160,000. You've proven this place is the heart of this community. That's worth protecting. The relief that flooded through Kate was visible. Her knees actually buckled slightly, and Rob caught her, holding her upright while she processed what had just happened. Thank you, she whispered. You have no idea what this means. I think I do. Brian smiled. Also, any couple that can pull off this kind of community event while navigating family expectations clearly has solid partnership skills. That bodes well for the business. After Brian left, Kate turned to Rob. We did it. The bookshop is saved. You did it. Rob cupped her face gently. This was all you. Then Kate kissed him, not a performance kiss, not a desperate wedding kiss. A real kiss, full of gratitude and relief and something deeper that neither of them was quite ready to name. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. That was, Rob started. Real, Kate finished. That was real. Before either could say more, Jennifer appeared in the doorway. Dad, they're cutting the celebration cake. They want family photos. Rob and Kate followed Jennifer back into the main shop where Margaret was organizing people for pictures. As they posed together, Rob with his arm around Kate and his family surrounding them, Frank caught his eye. The older man's expression was knowing, but not angry, just waiting for Rob to do the right thing. After the last customer left and the shop was cleaned up, Kate and Rob sat alone among the remaining books. Tomorrow, Rob said. I'm telling them tomorrow. All of it. Kate nodded. And us? What happens to us? I don't know. Rob took her hand, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing, I'm terrified, Kate admitted, of this being real, of opening my heart to someone after Richard, of risking that kind of loss again. Me too. But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. Kate's phone buzzed. A text from her son Daniel. Mom, I'm coming up next weekend with Amanda and Ava. Want to meet this guy you've been seeing? Rob's phone buzzed simultaneously. Frank, tell them tomorrow, Sunday dinner. I'll be there to make sure you do. You owe everyone the truth. They looked at each other, both holding phones with messages that made tomorrow's confession inevitable. No more delays, Kate said. No more lies, Rob agreed. They sat together in the bookshop that was saved, holding hands, knowing that tomorrow everything would change, and having absolutely no idea whether the truth would destroy what they had built or finally set them free to be real. Outside, the October night settled over Maplewood. And inside Wellington Books, two people who had met through lies and desperation began to hope that honesty might lead them somewhere worth going. Together. Sunday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Rob stood in his bathroom, staring at his reflection and rehearsing words that refused to sound anything but catastrophic. How did you confess to almost a year of lies to people who loved you? How did you ask forgiveness when you deserved condemnation? His phone buzzed. Frank, I'll be at your mother's house by noon. This ends today. Another message, this one from Kate. Are you sure about this? We could wait until after the investment clears. Rob typed back. No more delays. We do this right. Margaret's 78th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration. She had insisted on keeping it small, just family and close friends, which meant 40 people instead of the 80 she could have invited. The backyard had been decorated with fall flowers and pumpkins. Tables groaned under potluck contributions. And in the center of it all, Margaret held court like the beloved matriarch she was, radiant in her joy at having her family gathered. Rob arrived with Kate, both of them silent during the drive. They had spent the previous evening preparing, running through what Rob would say, how he would frame it, whether there was any possible way to minimize the damage. There wasn't. The truth was going to hurt, and they both knew it. Robert, Margaret swept him into a hug the moment they entered, and Catherine, she pulled Kate in as well, sandwiching them both in maternal affection. I'm so glad you're both here. This is the best birthday gift, seeing my son so happy. The guilt was a physical thing, heavy and sharp in Rob's chest. The party progressed with the easy rhythm of family gatherings. Children ran through the yard while adults caught up on each other's lives. Jennifer kept shooting Rob worried glances. Frank positioned himself near the drink table, watching everything with cop eyes that missed nothing. And Donna, oblivious to the undercurrents, kept pulling Kate into conversations about wedding planning. "When are you two going to make it official?" Donna demanded at one point, her third glass of wine making her louder than usual. "I want to be maid of honor. I've already picked out my dress." "Donna," Rob tried to intervene. "Don't Donna me." His sister waved a hand dismissively. "You've been dating for almost a year now. Barbara would want you to move on. She'd want you happy." Each word was a knife. Rob caught Kate's expression, saw the pain there, the guilt that matched his own. At 2 o'clock, Frank approached Rob with the measured calm of a man who had made thousands of arrests and knew how to be patient. "Time," he said simply. Rob nodded. He found Kate near the dessert table, pretending to be very interested in the arrangement of cupcakes. "It's time," he said quietly. She looked at him with eyes that were terrified but resolute. "Together?" "Together." They walked to the center of the yard. Rob tapped a spoon against his glass, the tinkling sound cutting through conversation. Gradually, the party quieted. 40 sets of eyes turned toward them, curious and expectant and completely unprepared for what was coming. Margaret beamed. "Is this what I think it is?" "Mom, family, everyone." Rob's voice caught. "I need to tell you something, and it's not easy." The mood shifted. Margaret's smile faltered. Jennifer moved closer, positioning herself to provide support or damage control. Frank crossed his arms, his face unreadable. "Almost a year ago, I lied to you." Rob forced himself to meet his mother's eyes. "I invented a girlfriend named Diane Morrison. She doesn't exist. She never did." The silence was absolute. Even the children seemed to sense something significant and went still. "What?" Margaret's voice was small, confused. "I was tired of the matchmaking and the pity and the constant concern, so I created a fake girlfriend to make it stop." Rob felt his throat tighten. It was supposed to be temporary, but then it became easier to maintain the lie than face the truth. Donna found her voice first. "You've been lying to us for over a year?" "Yes." "About a person? A whole entire person who doesn't exist?" "Yes." Margaret looked at Kate and Rob saw the moment understanding dawned. "Then who is she?" Kate stepped forward, her composure cracking. "My name is Catherine Wellington. I own the bookshop in town. I met Robert at Rebecca's wedding 3 weeks ago when he kissed me because he was desperate, and I was standing nearby." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Donna's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the patio. Jennifer closed her eyes. "You kissed a stranger?" Margaret's voice was barely audible. "I did." "I did," Rob confirmed, "without permission, without any right. And then I convinced her to pretend to be Diane because I was terrified of this moment, of disappointing you all." "Why would she agree to that?" Frank's detective instincts were fully engaged. Kate met his gaze directly. "Because I needed something from your family. I'm losing my bookshop. I needed an investor. Brian Hamilton was at the wedding. When Robert's family vouched for me, it made Brian trust me. So I used you. I used your love for Robert to save my business." The honesty was brutal. Several people looked away, unable to process the depth of the deception. "You manipulated us." Donna's voice shook with anger. "You let us buy you gifts. You came to our homes. You let us love you. And it was all fake?" "Not all of it," Kate said quietly, but her protest sounded weak even to Rob. Margaret walked toward them slowly. At 78, she moved with the careful deliberation of age, but her eyes were sharp and hurt. "You lied to your mother?" "Yes," Rob said, "and I have no excuse except cowardice. I was afraid of being vulnerable again, afraid of risking my heart. So I hid behind a fiction." "And her?" Margaret gestured at Kate. "Was she fiction too?" "At first," Rob admitted, "but somewhere along the way it became real. The feelings became real." "How convenient," Frank's voice was dry. "The fake relationship became real just in time for this confession." "It's true," Kate's voice strengthened. "I know you have no reason to believe me, but I fell in love with your son. Not the lies or the convenience or the investor connection. The actual man, his kindness, his intelligence, the way he helped save my bookshop, not because he had to, but because he believed in what I was trying to protect." Jennifer spoke for the first time, her voice tight. "Dad told me from the beginning about Diane being fake. I encouraged him to tell you all." Margaret turned to her granddaughter. "You knew?" "Yes, and I'm sorry, Grandma, but I saw Dad happy for the first time since Mom died. I wanted that for him, even if it started wrong." "Nothing that starts with a Y ends well," Donna said bitterly. Rob watched his family fracture in real time. Some faces showed anger. Others, confusion. A few, like his nephew's wife, just looked embarrassed to be witnessing family drama. Margaret's face cycled through emotions too quickly to track. Then Lily, his 14-year-old granddaughter, spoke up from where she had been sitting on the porch steps. "I knew too," she said clearly. "Grandpa told me last week. And you know what he said? He said Grandma Barbara would be ashamed of him." Rob flinched. That conversation had been private. But Lily continued, undeterred. "But I don't think Grandma Barbara would be ashamed. I think she'd understand. She told me before she died that Grandpa would be scared to love again. She made me promise to push him if he ever found someone." Her voice cracked slightly. "So I'm pushing. Because Catherine is nice and she makes Grandpa laugh, and maybe they started wrong, but they could end right if we let them." The party was completely silent. Then Jennifer moved to her purse and pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. "Before this goes further, Dad should read something." She handed the envelope to Rob. "Mom gave me this before she died. Made me promise to give it to you when you found someone new." Rob stared at the envelope, his hands shaking. Barbara's handwriting on the front. "For Robert, when the time is right." He opened it with trembling fingers and began to read aloud, his voice breaking. "My dearest Rob, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you've found someone new to love. I'm so glad. Please don't feel guilty. Our love was real and beautiful, and nothing can diminish it. But love doesn't end when a person dies. It transforms. You have so much love left to give. Give it freely. I want you to be happy, to laugh again, to grow old with somebody who sees how wonderful you are." Rob paused, wiping his eyes. The letter continued. "Whoever she is, I hope she knows how lucky she is. Love her with the same devotion you loved me. That's not betrayal. That's honoring what we had by living fully. Make the most of every day. Don't waste time in guilt or fear. Promise me. All my love, Barbara." The silence that followed was different, softer. Several people were crying openly. Margaret had her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Barbara knew," she whispered. "She knew you'd need permission." Rob nodded, unable to speak. Margaret approached Kate slowly. The older woman's face was complex, showing hurt and understanding in equal measure. "You used my family," she said. "I did," Kate replied, "and I deeply regret it. Did you fall in love with my son?" "Yes. Why should I believe you?" Kate took a shaky breath. "Because I could have walked away. After the investment was secured, I could have disappeared. But I'm here, facing your anger, risking your rejection, because Robert is worth fighting for. And because you all deserve honesty, even when it costs me everything." Margaret studied her for a long moment. "Then what do you love about him?" "His kindness." Kate's voice steadied. "He spent a week helping me save my bookshop. Not for show or for your approval, but because he believes community matters. He makes me feel seen, not as a widow or a business owner, but as Catherine. And when he looks at me, I feel like I've come home. And you, Robert?" Margaret turned to her son. "What do you love about her? She's brave," Rob said. "She could have walked away from this disaster, but she stayed. She challenges me to be better. She makes me want to wake up in the morning. And she loves books the way you taught me to, Mom. She sees their power to transform lives." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. The entire party held its breath. "One more question for both of you. Are you going to keep lying?" "No," they said in unison. Margaret's face crumpled. Then she opened her arms. "You're both idiots, but you're honest idiots now. That's something." Rob and Kate fell into her embrace, both crying. Around them, the family began to unfreeze. Some remained angry. Donna stalked off to the house, too furious to process. But others moved closer, offering tentative acceptance. Frank approached last. His face was stern, but his eyes held something like approval. "That took guts," he said, "confessing when you could have kept the lie going. Not many people have that kind of integrity." "I should have had it a year ago," Rob said. "But you have it now," Frank clapped him on the shoulder. "That counts." Over the next hour, the party resumed in a strange, subdued fashion. Some guests left early, uncomfortable with the drama. Others stayed, drawn by curiosity or loyalty, or the recognition that they had just witnessed something rare. People choosing honesty over comfort. Brian Hamilton, who had been standing near the back during the confession, approached Kate as she stood alone by the drink table. "That was quite a revelation," he said. Kate turned, her face pale. "I understand if you want to pull your investment. Do you?" Brian's expression was unreadable. "Why would I do that?" "Because our relationship was a lie. Because you invested based on false pretenses. I invested based on your business plan, your community support, and your passion for what you do." Brian smiled slightly. The fact that your relationship with Robert started unconventionally doesn't change any of that. If anything, I respect you more for coming clean. You do? Takes courage to admit mistakes publicly. That's the kind of integrity I want in a business partner. The investment stands. In fact, after watching how this community rallied for you last week, I'm more confident than ever. After Brian left, Kate found Rob helping his mother clean up discarded plates. Brian's keeping the investment, she told him. Of course he is, Margaret said before Rob could respond. That man's not stupid. He knows value when he sees it. She looked at Kate directly. And so do I. You made mistakes, Catherine, but you're trying to make them right. That matters. 2 weeks later, Rob and Kate had their first real date. No audience, no pretense, no lies. Rob picked her up at 7, his palms sweating like a teenager's. When Kate opened the door, she looked different, relaxed, the weight of deception gone from her shoulders. Hi, she said. I'm Catherine Wellington. I'm 60 years old. I own a bookshop. I'm a widow, and I'm occasionally willing to forgive terrible decisions. I'm Robert Mitchell, he replied, smiling. I'm 62, a retired principal, a widower, and I make terrible decisions under pressure. Would you like to have dinner with me, for real this time? I'd love to. They went to a small Italian restaurant where nobody knew them and nobody cared about their complicated history. They talked about everything and nothing, books and movies and travel dreams, his teaching career, her early marriage, the way grief had reshaped them both. Can I ask you something? Rob said over dessert. Anything. That first kiss at the wedding. Did you feel it? Kate was quiet for a moment. Yes, that's what terrified me. It should have been horrible, but there was something there, something real. I felt it too. They walked to the car slowly, neither wanting the evening to end. Under the streetlights, with October turning to November and the air crisp with coming winter, Rob stopped. Catherine Wellington, may I kiss you? Robert Mitchell, you may. This kiss was nothing like the desperate wedding kiss or the relieved bookshop kiss. This was a beginning, tender and honest and full of possibility. When they broke apart, both were smiling. Much better than the first time, Kate said. Everything's better when it's honest, Rob agreed. Over the following months, they built something real. Kate met Rob's family properly, no longer as Diane, but as Catherine. It was awkward at first. Donna remained cold for weeks before gradually thawing. But Margaret welcomed her with the warmth of someone who recognized a second chance when she saw one. They worked together on Barbara's garden. Rob and Kate spent weekends clearing overgrowth, replanting flower beds, restoring what had been lost. It became a symbol, honoring the past while building toward the future. Kate's son Daniel came to visit with his wife Amanda and daughter Ava. The 8-year-old immediately attached herself to Rob, demanding he read her stories and impressed by his knowledge of children's literature. He's good with her, Daniel said to his mother privately. He's a good man, Kate replied, despite the rocky start. Mom, you look happy, really happy. I haven't seen you like this since Dad died. I am happy, and terrified, and grateful, all at once. Margaret invited Kate to join her book club. The first meeting was tense, with several members clearly uncertain about the woman who had deceived them. But Kate's genuine love of literature and her thoughtful insights slowly won them over. By spring, Wellington Books and Brew was transformed. The investment had funded a new roof, updated plumbing, a renovated cafe space, and a community room for events. Business was thriving, and Rob had become a fixture, volunteering for story time with children and helping manage the space when Kate needed support. They moved slowly, carefully, both aware that they were building on ground that had once been unstable. But brick by brick, truth by truth, they constructed something solid. In April, on a Sunday afternoon in Barbara's restored garden, Rob found himself on one knee. The garden was in full bloom. Roses climbed the arbor, daffodils and tulips created riots of color. And in the center of it all, Kate stood in jeans and a gardening shirt, dirt under her fingernails, looking more beautiful than Rob had ever seen her. Catherine Wellington, he began. 6 months ago, I lied to you, kissed you without permission, and dragged you into an elaborate fraud. True, she said, smiling, but in the process, I fell in love with you, the real you. He pulled out a small box. You're brave and kind and brilliant. You saved your husband's legacy while finding the courage to build a new one. You made me laugh again, hope again, live again. He opened the box, revealing a simple ring with a sapphire the color of her eyes. I know we're 62 and 60. I know we've both loved before. I know we have limited time, but I want to spend every day I have left with you. Will you marry me? Kate was crying and laughing simultaneously. This is crazy, I know. We've only been really dating 6 months, I know. Your family found out about us through a massive lie, I know. And I love you so much it terrifies me. Is that a yes? Yes, obviously yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and they kissed in the garden that had died and been reborn, surrounded by flowers and hope and the promise of whatever time they had left. 6 months later, on a crisp October day, exactly 2 years after the wedding where they met, Rob and Kate married in a small ceremony at Maplewood Community Church. 60 guests filled the pews, family and close friends, people who had forgiven or never stopped loving them. The church was decorated simply with fall flowers and candles. Reverend Helen Morrison, who had counseled them through their complicated journey, officiated with warmth and wisdom. Love at any age is brave, she said in her homily. Love after loss is miraculous. Rob and Kate have both known deep love and deep grief. They've learned that honoring the past doesn't mean staying there. Barbara would smile seeing this. Richard would toast this, because true love wants our loved ones to be happy, even when we're gone. Rob's vows were simple and devastating. Kate, our story started with a lie, but it became the truest thing in my life. You taught me it's never too late for second chances. I promise to be honest, to cherish every day, to love you fully until my last breath. Kate's voice shook but held strong. Rob, you kissed me at a wedding out of desperation. I stayed out of necessity, but I'm marrying you out of choice. Pure, simple choice. You're my second chance at love, and I promise to make every moment count. When Reverend Morrison pronounced them husband and wife, the church erupted in applause. Margaret cried happy tears. Donna, who had eventually forgiven them, cheered loudly. Jennifer and Daniel, their children, stood together looking relieved and joyful. And Lily, the wise 14-year-old, wiped her eyes and whispered to her brother that she had known all along they would end up together. The reception was held at Wellington Books, the place where their real relationship had been built. The shop was decorated beautifully, transformed but still recognizably itself. And as Rob and Kate danced to their first song, surrounded by people who had forgiven them and loved them and believed in second chances, they both felt the same thing. Gratitude. Not for the lies or the mistakes or the painful confessions, but for the journey those things had started. For the unexpected gift of finding love when they had stopped looking for it. That evening, after the guests had left and the shop was quiet, Rob and Kate sat alone among the books. Any regrets? Rob asked. About the lie? Yes. About finding you? Never. Kate leaned her head on his shoulder. How many years do you think we have? 10? 20 if we're lucky? Then let's make everyone count. Rob kissed the top of her head. No more wasted time. No more hiding. Just truth and love and whatever comes next. Through the bookshop window, the October moon rose over Maplewood, and two people who had met through desperation and lies sat together in honest contentment, grateful for the mess that had led them home to each other. Sometimes the worst decisions lead to the best destinations. Sometimes lies crumble to reveal truth underneath. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, love finds you even when you're not looking for it, even when you're 62 and kissing strangers at weddings. Even then. The end.